Great. Well, thank you all for coming and welcome to our session, which is about the Early Childhood and Families Service and the Community Fund. My name's Amy. I work for Momentum, which is part of Voluntary Norfolk. And what we do is we're an infrastructure organisation. So we support voluntary sector organisations who are working with children and young people. And that's everything from small village youth clubs and toddler groups right up to bigger charities. So if we could just go around and everyone introduce themselves, just say who you are, what organisation you're representing, if you are representing one, and maybe briefly what's drawn you here today. So do you work with 0 to 5s or would you like to, that kind of thing. So if I start, I'm just going to pick on someone, and then if after you've introduced yourselves, pick on someone else. So we just keep going around. So I'm going to start with Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane. I'm the Senior Manager for the Hamlet Charity, and we support children and young people with disabilities and complex health needs, right from birth up to the age of 29 across both our sites. So partly my role is supporting children from birth to 18 in various roles. So we've got stay and play groups, parent support, a preschool, and a short break service. Okay. So Heidi.
Hello, I'm Heidi. I live in Kenninghall and I run Tiny Tots Toddler Group, and we're just starting Who Lets the Dads Out. Both have received grants from the Community Fund. I'm also a early years intervention coach for Norfolk, and I do various other things as well. That's about it, really.
Great, thanks. Did you want to pick someone to go next, or someone want to volunteer? I'll pick on Michelle, why not?
Okay, yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm a community focused officer in Breckland. So part of my role is to be part of the early childhood and community fund. So it's supporting groups to complete their applications, just giving advice and guidance, and just pointing people in the right direction. So we also do information advice to professionals, as well as a host of other things. Oh, I'm going to pick on Karen.
I knew you was going to. I could even see you looking at me, even though the screen's like this. So I'm Karen Robson. I'm a community focus officer in the West. So literally the same as Michelle, but a different area. So I support groups to apply for this funding. So yeah, that's me. So I will pick on Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie. Again, I'm a community focus officer. I cover South Norfolk. I don't really have probably anything additional to add to Karen and Michelle, but I'm going to be presenting to you in a bit. And I'll pick on Carla.
Hi everybody, so my name's Carla and I am the Commissioning and Service Development Manager for Norfolk's Early Childhood System, and part of my role is to lead the community offer element of our system approach. So we're here today ready to talk to you about our community funding and how we're working with community members to develop opportunities for families where they have children aged 0 to 5. So I'm working with a team of community focus officers. You've got 3 of them here today, but there are more of us across the county that are spending some of our day job, some of our role, focusing on supporting communities to apply for the funding and either expand existing groups or start up new groups and reopen after COVID. And some of the impact for groups has meant that they've needed some support, be that financially or just for advice and guidance. So yeah, so I'll pass to Petra.
Hi, I'm Petra. Sorry, my camera's not working. I'm just not shy really. I'm a member of the Norfolk Deaf Children's Society, a committee member, and I was basically just asked to come today to see if there's anything that would be beneficial for us. That's it really.
Great, thank you. It's lovely to have you all here. just to let you know, kind of rundown of how we see this session going. You're going to hear a little bit more from Carla in a bit about the fund, and then we're going to hear from Heidi about kind of her experiences really, and we'll have a bit of a discussion afterwards. We were going to go into breakout rooms, but I think given the numbers, we'll just stick together in one group and have a bit of a conversation about your work and how it's going, and maybe what you might need and how you could see the community fund supporting what you do. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Carla. You've got slides, haven't you, Carla? So I think I might need to make you a co-host so you can share.
Katie's presenting.
Oh, Katie's presenting. Sorry,
my
mistake.
Yeah, I'll just say a little bit about the funding and how we've developed that as a local authority, but then Katie will pass over. I'll pass over to Katie so she can talk you through the more detail really. So back in October 2019, our early childhood system was launched in Norfolk. So the early childhood system is the model that replaced our old children's centre model. So if any of you knew of children's centres, Sure Start children's centres, and in the past, we did a big kind of piece of work really looking at how we can get the best for families and what that model would look like. So we have a model now which has three core elements. So we have one element which is called the Early Childhood and Family Service. That is our targeted offer of family support to families who might need some additional support. And that is the service that Action for Children run on behalf of Norfolk County Council. And then we have our community offer, which is a bit that we're going to talk about today. And then we have our digital offer. So the digital offer was really looking at how we can enhance our partnership work and to really make best use of digital platforms, social media platforms, and how we can work together to promote each other's services, get key messages to families, and to open up opportunities for families to access services themselves. So where families are confident to find information online, they can find that without having to physically go out and seek services. So yeah, so we're here to talk about the community offer. So as part of the remodelling for the early childhood system, Norfolk County Council has committed £250,000 per financial year to community development. So that, I won't go into too much detail because Katie's going to talk about it, but so in essence, we wanted to create an opportunity for community members and organisations to start up groups for community members, parents and their children to come and develop really their own kind of peer support networks through activities that they would want, you know, through consultation, what parents tell us in local communities that they want to have available to them and their children. So like I said, that's a committed pot of money. It's ring-fenced for this piece of work. And so Katie will talk to you about how the application process and things work with that. But in essence, we're just really here to promote it really and make it more people aware of how you can apply for the funding. And Heidi will be able to tell you about her experience of how she has successfully been awarded 2 pots of money now for 2 new groups for the area that where Heidi lives and for those local community members and how that's sort of enhanced what they can access locally. So I'll pass over to Katie, and if I think of anything else and we've missed anything, then I'll come back in at the end.
Thank you, Carla. Amy, should I be able to just share my screen now?
Hopefully, if you can't, let me know and I'll figure it out in the settings.
All good.
Just see my screen, you can't see my notes.
Can see your screen, can't see your notes.
Perfect, I can see my notes. Okay, so I'm just going to talk you through the community fund. Carla's kind of touched a bit on the background of it, but this is kind of more specific about what we can offer. And we'll talk about how it can be used and the other type of applications that we've had in the past. So it might give you some ideas, and then like Amy said, we'll have lots of time for discussion if you've got anything in particular or any questions that we haven't been clear on. So the aims of the Community Fund are to help children aged 0 to 5 to achieve their developmental milestones, ensure children and their parents or carers are not lonely or isolated, increase opportunities for parents and carers to come together and take part in fun activities alongside their child, and deliver local services for young children and their parents within their community. So those are the things that we would like to see any application sort of thinking about covering. So how can the fund be used? So there's several different ways. So the first would be to set up a new community provision. So this would typically be in the form of a 0 to 5 community group. However, it could be another form of community provision supporting young families. And provision could include digital or remote provision such as activities. But obviously, as we move sort of forward, we would expect most of that to be in person. The fund could be used to cover costs for training, membership to the SAFER programme, which is safeguarding support, resources that you might need, initial setup costs, insurance, marketing and promotion materials, and venue hire for up to 6 months. So it will cover most things in terms of setting up. Something to be clear that it won't fund is staff costs, but we will come to that in a moment. The fund could also be used to expand the capacity of an existing group. So this could include duplicating a group in the same area due to increasing numbers. So you might be running on a Friday and think, oh, I'd really like to run on a Thursday, but I need a bit more financial support. So you could use the fund for that. Or you might think, we've done really well in this area. I know another area of need and I'd like to set up there. Or if you sort of had an idea of how you could extend your existing offer to reach new families. So that's how that part of the fund could be used. At the moment, we're also offering that one's up to £2,500. We're also offering the option of up to £500 to help you reopen following COVID-19. So the fund could be used to provide provisions to help minimise the risk of COVID-19. So, for example, that might be duplicating equipment, so children have their own sets, or new equipment that's easy to clean between uses, room dividers, cleaning materials, and also outstanding costs incurred during lockdown, which would prevent a group from reopening. So at the moment, that is open until October, and that's for existing groups. And then we also do have some funding for larger local projects. Each of the 7 districts in Norfolk have an allocated budget to identify and commission local projects that will make a difference locally and improve outcomes within the district. And that's based on kind of locally defined need. And if you kind of had an idea around that, that's something that we would like to work with you and also include other partners in. And you can sort of access a bigger pot of money, and that will cover the same things as the startup provision, but it would also cover venue hire for up to 12 months and also volunteer expenses. So the fund will support activities and groups that involve parents and children aged 0 to 5 attending activities which provide social and developmental opportunities. Groups that are run by community members or community organisations, or by other organisations such as businesses or early years setting that are running their group or activity as a community resource. And that's my note there, just to say that the fund can't be used to cover staff costs. Where a physical provision is offered, we would want to see that it was being run from local venues close to where parents live. Groups may be free or have a nominal charge. We would anticipate that where a fee is charged, this is kept reasonable for local families and kept as low as possible. But we also want to see that you're ensuring you're sustainable moving forward. And if you do say there's no charge, we would encourage you to just think maybe about a voluntary donation to ensure that sustainability. Or anything we fund has to be open access. they can't be targeted or where individuals must be referred to a professional. So specifically for settings, this means that they must be open to the wider community and not just existing children and families. But you could think about how you could do that. A question that we do get asked sometimes is, could I run a group for certain ages? So for example, if you wanted to just run a baby group or a group for children with special educational needs, that's absolutely fine to have sort of a target in that way, but it just needs to be open to anyone within that group. So we just wouldn't want to see they could only come if they've been referred, for example, or they have to already be part of the community-like setting. So what the fund can't fund is long-term venue costs. So that's beyond the maximum of 6 or 12 months. Resources that are not appropriate for a group setting, salaries, capital works, and we also unfortunately can't fund resources or equipment for existing groups that are not increasing their capacity to allow more families to attend. Obviously, at the moment, that is with the exception of the COVID-19 grant, where you can apply for a more appropriate equipment to help you reduce that risk. Faith-based and religious organisations are eligible to apply. We would expect any group that we fund to be transparent, to reassure us that funds will not be primarily used to promote specific religious activities. So that's just kind of some examples of what we can't fund, but also I have one over what we can. So moving on just to some examples of things that we have funded to give you a bit of an idea. So recently we've funded resource bags, which have been distributed to families by a group leader and then used during online sessions. So that's been really helpful during the restrictions for some of our communities and groups. We've funded music groups, stay and play, extensions of existing groups for more sessions in a week, story and rhyme time groups, breastfeeding support, outdoor groups in favourite forest schools, parent and baby groups, phonics groups, physical activity of children with SEND, and outdoor walking activity resource packs. So you can see there's quite a variety, but lots of our funding is for those groups. Okay, so if you were interested in applying to the fund, you'd be allocated a community focus officer, and that would be someone who's in your district. So if it was South Norfolk, it would be myself, or West, it would be Karen, who you've met. But there are lots of others of us across the county. And you'll be able to get as much or as little support from us as you need with your application, and then also getting your project up and running. So we're kind of here as your point of contact to help with your application, but also any other sort of more practical questions that you've got. And we can sort of help you at the start of getting that running. But if you feel after this session that the fund doesn't meet your needs, or you have wider ideas sort of beyond 0 to 5, we do have a wider remit within the community focus team through which we can find you sort of support, and that might be through helping you find alternative funding or to support you with other projects. So please do speak to us even if you think the fund is not for you, because it's one, we like to sort of know what's going on. It's really important that we're aware of the great work that's going on so we can signpost to families, but also we might be able to offer you sort of some different support that we haven't covered today. So I think that is it from me today. I'm going to stop sharing because I can't see you, but we'll have some time for questions. I think after Heidi has spoken. Is that okay? Is that the idea, Carla?
Yeah, and because Heidi needs to leave in about 15 minutes, I think. So yeah, if we can have Heidi, and then just if people have got specific questions for Heidi, we can do those before Heidi needs to leave. Is that all right, Heidi?
Yeah, that's fine. So we got a grant for our current toddler group, Tiny Tots. We decided to go online during the third lockdown, and we had a grant from the community fund, and that ran out, and then I saw on Facebook this grant, so I applied, and I think it was Michelle I emailed about it. I said, oh, do you think that we could apply? And she said, oh yes, and she helped me through what we could apply for and the COVID money and things, so we could continue doing online Toddler Group until we were allowed to meet again, and now we have had a few meetings face to face now, but it's just allowed us to buy things we'd never be able to buy before, because we are a small village, and a lot of our parents are single car families, so if dad takes the car, they can't drive to Attleborough or anywhere because we don't have any buses to go to a Toddler Group, and we only charge £1.50 per family each week. So, and when you're paying for snacks and things, the thought of opening back up with COVID and just buying stuff like hand sanitizer, it would have just cost us too much money. So getting the grant has made a massive difference to our Toddler Group, and we've got individual craft packs for the children. So it's just been amazing for us. And then because we did online, a lot of the dads were home, so they would sign in to Zoom as well and do the activities with the children. So then we spoke to the dads and said, oh, what do you think about a dad's Toddler Group who lets the dads out? And they said, oh yes, but we decided just monthly, because no one really wants to run a Toddler Group every Saturday. So then I went back to Michelle said, do you think there's any funding? And she said, yes, there is. So she helped me with an application, and we were successful with that grant. And our first dad's group is the end of June, so we've got dads signing up for that, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without the grant because of the startup costs, and we do charge parents, but just a minimal amount, just to cover, because we want the group to, obviously, once we've spent the grant, to continue. So for us, for a village, it's been amazing because we wouldn't be able to do these things otherwise. And the grant, the Tiny Tots grant, paid for me to go on a 2-day paediatric first aid course. So I did that, and then driving home from Norwich, I kept thinking about, what I've learned. I thought, oh my goodness, I think parents should do a first aid course. So we were able to get a trainer to come to church, and parents have been booking on, and then they've been coming and getting first aid trained as well. Just a basic, it's like a 2-hour baby and child first aid course, but if there's an emergency, they would know what to do in CPR and things. So we've got a couple of sessions for that for parents. So for us, as a very small rural village in Breckland that doesn't have any services, we don't have, our village hall got knocked down 8 years ago, it hasn't been rebuilt properly, it's not open yet, so we use the church. We only got running water in the church and toilets 2 years ago. We have got families who are low income. It's just been amazing, really. So we're very grateful, and our families are very grateful, and we've got a lot of new families signing up to come, so we're very excited. And yeah, I'd encourage anyone to apply.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, so I guess it's just to ask if anybody's got any questions specific to Heidi or not, I guess, but yeah, any questions or comments or anything you need us to clarify in terms of what's already been sort of shared with you.
I've got a question. What's the evaluation process like after you've had the grant? Do you have to fill out something to say what you've done with the money, what impact it's made, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Do you want me to say, Heidi, or do you want to say? Yeah. So with our start-up and expansion funding, so we do a small piece of monitoring at 3 months, just to make sure that the group's up and running, or if it isn't, can we support that? Is there some issues? So it's really a kind of a check-in, just to monitor, are you open? Are families accessing? have you started to spend the money? Have you spent the money on the things that you said you would? Do we need to rethink, you know, did you say some things in your application that perhaps now you think, well, I don't actually need those, but I'd like something different with the funding? So we'll have that kind of general discussion at 3 months after the group sort of should open. And then at the end of 12 months, the funding agreement kind of ends after 12 months. So after 12 months, we would expect the large proportion of the grant funding to have been spent, and that the group is obviously then up and running and well established. And so part of that would be obviously getting some feedback from families about the impact for them. But it's quite light touch monitoring. Obviously, the grants are quite small amounts of money. So it really is just a kind of a check-in, see how things are going. Yeah, and hear from families about how they've benefited, and support Heidi with anything, well, any group, but in this instance Heidi, in terms of, you know, sustainability and how the group's going to continue to run in the future. But the CFO that is allocated to applicants would continue to, you know, be a port of call for anybody to sort of touch base with at any point. And I know that they're all very keen to get out and see all of the new groups once they're all up and running and open again. So yeah, so there is some monitoring, but it's 3 months and 12 months. Then there wouldn't be any more.
I'd also say that I have done quite a few of your Zooms, and they are very useful. The getting back to Toddler Group, there was one about all the COVID restrictions, the safeguarding policy, all of those have really helped. So if anyone was interested in doing them, I would encourage them to do them, because they do give you lots of different ideas or things that you hadn't really thought about, you know, doing in your Toddler Group. So I found them quite useful as well.
Is there an estimated sort of like time between popping the application in and receiving the grant? Is there a sort of general length or?
Yeah, once your application comes in, so if you're applying for startup funding, at the moment we meet monthly to discuss COVID recovery grants, which are the smaller grants, are looked at weekly because of obviously the very nature that, you know, people are applying for it to get reopened. If it's a brand new sort of startup or expansion funding application, we meet monthly at the moment to discuss those. So you would find out almost instantly after the panel meeting, you know, literally within a couple of days, whether or not that your application's been successful, whether we need some more information, etc. And then after that, it really is, it's then in the hands of sort of the finance process more than anything. So once you've applied, if awarded, we would then send you a funding agreement for you to look at and agree the terms of the funding, which includes the monitoring that we just talked about. You would obviously then sign that and agree to that. We would then process with our finance team process for payment. That can take around about a month to get things set up into the system. And then as soon as you've got your purchase order through us, through the finance team, you would then just invoice us for the money. So once the application is submitted, you know, you could be looking, I would say, approximately 6 weeks, worst case scenario, 2 months, but it's the building up to getting the application to panel that, you know, might take a bit of time, obviously thinking through your ideas and what you'd need and access and getting insurance and stuff, you know, if you've not already got that. But yeah, once the application's in, depends on when you put it in. As to, obviously, if we've just had a panel meeting, then you might have to wait a few weeks till the next panel meeting. But the CFOs would know the dates, and that they would, you know, advise you of a kind of a deadline to get it into panel.
Any more questions from anyone for either Heidi, Carla or Katie?
So I was just catching up in the chat. Just checking there wasn't anything in there for me.
I think Karen has got a PDF for the training courses that Heidi mentioned. So Karen, if you can email that to me, I'll make sure that goes out to everyone.
I'm about to hit send, don't worry.
Brilliant, yeah. And any future dates as well, feel free to send them to us, because we can always promote them to our network as well.
I was going to say, never be afraid to just contact us, just contact us and just have a conversation. Maybe there is something that we can support you on. It might not be this fun, but it could be, as Carla's alluded to, it could be something completely different, another project that you may have in mind. Always here to have a conversation with.
I'm going to go now because I've got to go on the school run.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thanks ever so much for coming.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. See you soon.
Yeah, I thought that was just really helpful to see everything, the examples of how the fund's been used. And I thought it was great as well that groups can get their safer programme payment as well as part of that. That's something I definitely, we work quite closely with Safer, and I would encourage all groups to sign up to that because they are just brilliant.
At the moment, Safer, so we will fund the membership fee, but at the moment, Safer are working quite closely with us to have offered all community groups free membership this year.
Oh, even better. Yeah.
So all community groups can actually have free membership to the Safer programme, but that's in agreement for this financial year ahead. But yeah, other to that, you can apply for that membership cost, which is £30 a year. That can be on the application as well. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Karen. Karen's popped the web page in as well. But yeah, I think as the others have sort of said, really, you've seen some examples of project ideas, group ideas, and what we have funded, but there isn't a right or a wrong kind of idea. It is really based on what you feel is needed in your area, and you all know your community members and what they say they need, etc. So we're very open to having conversations, and it's good learning for us as well in terms of finding out what people know about families in the area and what they could benefit from. So yeah, I'd always, like the others have said, get in touch and just ask questions. We're here to sort of answer the questions and support any ideas. Oh, thanks, Katie. Katie's put in the email address as well.
Sorry, I missed that, Katie. I don't know if it was my internet or yours, but
I think I mumbled. It says someone's in the waiting room on my screen.
Oh, yes. Right, I'll just let them in. Thanks for spotting that.
That's okay.
Right. So I know, Carla, you're heading off in a couple of minutes as well. So we've got a few minutes for any last questions while Carla's still here. And if not, we'll just move on to having a more general conversation about what's going on in your organisations at the moment, and things that you might be worried about, things that are working well, and just have a bit of a catch up with each other. No more questions? I don't want to cut anyone off, but okay. In that case, then we'll let Carla go. Thanks ever so much for coming. And for,
right, yeah, we'll send you, because I was just going to say to those Petra, Jane, so these kind of information sessions we hold quite regularly. So dates and things are on our webpage. So you can always, come back for some more information via that route as well. But I'll share those with you, Amy, because I think it'd be useful if you could then circulate those to your contacts, just so then if people couldn't make today and they want to come and sort of receive the same information, they can book themselves onto one of those. Like I said, they're held every month now. So I'll send those through to you anyway. But yeah, just thanks everybody for attending, and I shall speak to you all soon.